Right now, as you listen to the sound of my voice, I want you to take a deep, slow breath. Let the world outside your door begin to fade. The worries of the day, the light of the sun or the street lamps, the noise of the modern world, let it all dissolve into the shadows. You are safe. You are still. And you are about to embark on a journey that spans hundreds of thousands of years. Think about your own body for a moment. Think about the silent map written inside you, your DNA. We often think of ourselves as a single, isolated species, the final chapter of a long book. But there is a secret hidden in the twisted ladder of your molecules. Deep within the genetic code of billions of people alive today, there is a ghost. It is a fragment of a memory, a piece of a human species that vanished from the face of the earth over 30,000 years ago. They are known as the Denisovans. Before the first stone was laid for the pyramids, before the first grain of wheat was ever planted, and long before the first word was ever written down, these people walked the earth. They saw the stars as they were eons ago. They felt the biting chill of the great ice age and the humid warmth of ancient jungles. They lived, they loved, they struggled, and eventually, they faded into the mists of prehistory. But they didn't completely disappear. Tonight, we are going to follow the trail of these mysterious ancestors. We are going to travel from the high, windswept Altai mountains of Siberia to the lush, green islands of Southeast Asia. We will explore how a single, tiny fragment of a finger bone, no larger than a pebble, changed everything we thought we knew about our own origin. As you drift closer to sleep, remember, you are not just a person living in the present. You are a living library of the past. You carry the strength of those who survived the frost and the wisdom of those who navigated the unknown. The Denisovans are gone, but as long as you are breathing, a part of them is still here. A part of them is still alive inside you. Close your eyes and imagine the Altai Mountains. They rise from the heart of Central Asia like the jagged spine of the world. This is a place where the wind whispers through ancient valleys, and the silence is so deep it feels like it has a weight of its own. Here, the winters are long, brutal, and white, while the summers are a fleeting dream of wildflowers and crystal-clear rivers. Tucked into a limestone cliff overlooking the Anui River, there is a hollow in the earth, a mouth of stone that has been watching the world change for hundreds of millennia. This is Denisova Cave. To the modern eye, it might look like just another dark opening in the rock. But as you step inside, the temperature drops. The air becomes cool and still, smelling of damp earth and ancient dust. For over 300,000 years, this cave was a sanctuary. It was a home for the weary, a shelter from the storm, and a silent witness to the passage of different kinds of humans. Think of the layers of dirt beneath your feet as pages in a book. Each centimeter of sediment represents centuries of time. There are layers of ash from fires that went out thousands of years before the first cities were built. There are bones of animals that no longer exist, mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and cave hyenas, mixed with the stone tools of the hunters who pursued them. In 2008, Russian archaeologists were carefully brushing away the dust in a deep layer of the cave. They weren't looking for a revolution, they were looking for a sign. And they found it. A tiny fragment of bone. It was a distal phalanx, the very tip of a pinky finger belonging to a young girl. She was likely only 7 or 8 years old when she lived in this cave, nearly 50,000 years ago. Imagine her for a moment. Perhaps she sat by the fire, watching the sparks fly toward the cave's ceiling, just as you might watch the embers of a dream. She had no way of knowing that her small finger bone would survive the crushing weight of time, waiting in the dark for 50 millennia to tell her story. At first, the scientists thought she was a Neanderthal or perhaps an early modern human. But the bone held a secret that the naked eye could not see. It held DNA that had been preserved by the constant, freezing temperature of the Siberian soil. When that bone was sent to a laboratory in Germany, the results sent a shockwave through the world of science. The DNA didn't match us, and it didn't match the Neanderthals. In that moment, a new branch was added to the human family tree. From a single tiny bone in a remote cave, a ghost species was brought back to life in our minds. They called them the Denisovans, named after the cave, which was itself named after a hermit named Denis who lived there long ago. But as the scientists looked deeper into the girl's genome, they realized that Denisova Cave was just the beginning. The girl's ancestors hadn't just lived in Siberia, They had left their mark across half the globe. Let your mind drift even deeper now. As you settle into the quiet of the night, try to picture them. Who were these people? What did they look like as they walked through the golden grasslands of the ancient world? For a long time, the Denisovans were a mystery with no face. We had no skulls, no complete skeletons, only a few large teeth and that tiny finger bone. But science has a way of painting a portrait with nothing but molecules. Through the magic of genetic reconstruction, we are beginning to see them, emerging like shadows from the fog of time. Imagine a people built for the challenges of a wilder earth. They were likely robust, with powerful frames and deep chests, designed to endure the physical demands of a life lived entirely outdoors. Their faces might have been broad, with a strong, noble jaw and a wide nose to warm the frigid air of the north or breathe the humid air of the south. Their eyes, intelligent, observant, and keen, would have been experts at reading the subtle signs of nature, the bending of a blade of grass, the distant scent of rain, or the shifting behavior of a herd of reindeer. But do not think of them as primitive or simple. Think of them as masters of their environment. Visualize a Denisovan camp at twilight. The air is filled with the earthy scent of wood smoke and roasting meat. Inside the circle of firelight, there is a sense of deep belonging. They were a social people, bound together by ties of family and shared survival. Imagine the sound of their voices, low, rhythmic, perhaps rising in song or falling into the quiet murmurs of a story told to a child. In this world, every object had a spirit. They were skilled craftsmen. We have found beautiful green stone bracelets in the same layers of the cave, polished until they gleamed like the surface of a forest lake. Think of the patience required to grind stone against stone, the steady hands, and the artistic soul that wanted to create something beautiful simply for the sake of beauty. They weren't just surviving. They were experiencing the world in all its raw, magnificent glory. They felt the same emotions you feel: the warmth of a hand held in the dark, the grief of a loss, the fierce protection of a parent for a child. When the young girl in the cave lost her life, her family likely mourned her under the same stars that watch over you tonight. As you breathe slowly, imagine the vastness of the territory they claimed. They weren't confined to one cave. They were travelers. Some groups lived in the high, thin air of the Tibetan Plateau, where the sky feels close enough to touch. Others wandered through the emerald green rainforests of Southeast Asia, navigating a world of giant ferns and hidden rivers. They were a widespread, successful branch of humanity. They were our cousins, our neighbors, and, as we would later discover, part of our own family. They were the silent keepers of the East, holding the secrets of a continent for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, let your mind travel to a time between 60 and 80,000 years ago. The world is a different place. The continents are the same, but the people are many. As our direct ancestors, the early Homo sapiens, began their long, courageous journey out of Africa, they did not walk into an empty world. They walked into a world already alive with human voices. Imagine a group of travelers, our great-great-grandparents, moving through the vast corridors of Asia. They are explorers, following the coastlines and the river valleys. And somewhere, in a valley misted by time, or along a beach now drowned by rising seas, they saw smoke on the horizon that was not their own. They looked into the eyes of another kind of human, the Denisovans. In our modern minds, we like to draw hard lines. We like to think of us and them. But nature does not know these lines. Imagine the first meeting. It might have been cautious, a watching from a distance, a slow sharing of tools, or a piece of hunted meat. But eventually, caution turned into connection. They did not just share the landscape, they shared their lives. They looked at each other and saw not a different species, but a fellow traveler in a harsh and beautiful world. They formed families. They raised children together, children who carried the wisdom of Africa and the resilience of the East in a single body. Think of human evolution not as a straight ladder, but as a braided river. Sometimes the water separates into different channels, flowing apart for thousands of miles. But then, the land shifts, and the channels rejoin. The waters mix, swirling together, becoming stronger and deeper as they flow toward the ocean of the present day. We know this happened because of the messages left in our blood. When scientists look at the DNA of people today in Melanesia, Aboriginal Australia, and parts of Southeast Asia, they find a startling truth. Up to 5% of their genome is Denisovan. This isn't just a trace, it is a legacy. Imagine a young child born 90,000 years ago. We have found the bone of such a child, a girl nicknamed Denny. When scientists tested her DNA, they found something miraculous. Her mother was a Neanderthal, and her father was a Denisovan. She was the living bridge between two vanished worlds. As you breathe in the stillness of your room, realize that this story is not about extinct people. It is about the ancestors who live on through us. Those ancient meetings, those moments of love and partnership in the shadow of a glacier or under the canopy of a tropical forest, are the reason you are here today. We borrowed their strength. We inherited their adaptations. We took their survival and made it our own. The Denisovans gave us the tools to conquer new worlds, to breathe on mountain tops, and to survive in lands our ancestors had never seen before. The river of life flowed through them, into our grandparents, and finally, into you. You are the culmination of a million shared moments. You are the dream of the Denisovans, realized in the modern world. As you lie still, feeling the gentle rhythm of your own breath, consider the air filling your lungs. For most of us, breathing is something we never think about. It is as natural as the beating of our hearts. But if you were to stand on the roof of the world, the high, thin atmosphere of the Tibetan Plateau, every breath would become a struggle. Yet, the people who live there, the Tibetans, move through that thin air with an ease that defies logic. Their hearts do not race. Their blood does not thicken with exhaustion. For a long time, this was a biological mystery. How did they adapt so perfectly to a place where oxygen is a luxury? The answer, it turns out, was hidden in a cave in Siberia 50,000 years ago. When scientists mapped the Tibetan genome, they found a specific gene called EPS1. It is a supergene that regulates how the body reacts to low oxygen. And here is the magic. That gene did not evolve in modern humans. It was a gift. It was inherited directly from the Denisovans. Somewhere in the deep past, a group of Denisovans lived in those high, cold places for so long that their bodies mastered the art of breathing thin air. When they met our ancestors, they passed that mastery down. Today, every breath taken by a Tibetan climber is a tribute to a Denisovan ancestor who conquered those same mountains eons ago. But the gifts do not stop at the mountains. As you settle deeper into your bed, think about your immune system, the silent army that protects you from the unseen. In the DNA of people across Asia and the Pacific, there are Denisovan genes that help the body recognize and fight off ancient viruses and bacteria. When our ancestors arrived in new, strange lands, they encountered diseases they had never seen before. But the Denisovans had been there for 100,000 years. They had already fought those battles. By merging with them, we didn't just gain cousins, we gained a shield. We inherited an immune system that was already prime for the environment. Their survival became our survival. Even the way we process fat, the way our skin reacts to the cold, and the way our bodies store energy, all these subtle details of being you may have traces of Denisovan wisdom. They are not just a footnote in a history book. They are the reason some of us can survive in the freezing cold, or why our bodies can endure long periods without food. They were the pioneers. They were the ones who tested the limits of the earth first. And before they left, they handed us the keys to the continent. Take a moment to feel a sense of gratitude for these forgotten relatives. You carry their endurance. You carry their strength. Even in the silence of your room, you are never truly alone. You are supported by the biological heritage of a people who saw the world when it was young and wild, and who made sure that you would have the tools to see it too. As the night grows deeper and your room feels even more still, we must ask, where did they go? Why did the fires in Denisova cave eventually go out? Around 25 to 30,000 years ago, the world was changing. The Great Ice Age was tightening its grip, and the landscapes the Denisovans had known for millennia were shifting. But they didn't disappear in a sudden flash or a great catastrophe. Their fading was as slow and quiet as the setting of a winter sun. Imagine the last small groups of Denisovans. Perhaps they were tucked away in the high valleys of the Himalayas or deep within the dense, emerald jungles of Papua New Guinea. They were fewer now. As our own ancestors, modern humans, became more numerous, the world began to feel smaller. But the Denisovans didn't truly die out in the way we usually think. They didn't vanish into nothingness. Instead, they were absorbed. They folded themselves into the tapestry of us. They gave their stories, their knowledge of the stars, and their very blood to the newcomers. They chose to live on through their children, children who were now part of a new, global human family. Think of a drop of ink falling into a vast, clear lake. At first, the drop is distinct, a dark swirl in the water. But as time passes, the ink spreads. It becomes thinner and thinner until you can no longer see the individual drop. Yet, the entire lake has been changed by its presence. That is what happened to the Denisovans. They are the ink, and we are the lake. There are legends in the islands of the Pacific and the mountains of Asia, stories of ancient ones, of giants who lived in caves, or mysterious forest people who possessed strange wisdom. For a long time, we dismissed these as mere fairy tales. But now, we have to wonder, are these the faint, echoing memories of the Denisovans? Is it possible that our ancestors told stories of their Denisovan neighbors for thousands of years, passing them down from parent to child, until the facts turned into myths? Perhaps, in the quietest corners of our folklore, we have always remembered them. As you drift closer to the edge of sleep, feel the weight of this long history. The Denisovans walked the same earth you walk. They saw the same moon that shines tonight. They experienced the same mystery of existence that you feel in the silence of the dark. They are gone from the physical world, leaving only a few teeth and fragments of bone in the dust of a cave. But they are not forgotten. Every time a scientist sequences a genome, every time a person breathes easily in the high mountains, and every time you feel that deep, ancient connection to the wild earth, they are there. They were the guardians of the East, the masters of the cold, and the architects of our survival. Their journey ended so that ours could continue. Now, as our journey through the deep past comes to an end, it is time to return to the present. Feel the surface beneath you, the softness of your bed, the weight of your blankets. You are back in your own time, in your own room, safe and undisturbed. The Altai Mountains are far away. The ancient caves are silent now, filled only with the slow drip of water and the cold breath of the wind. The Denisovan girl, with her tiny finger bone, is at peace. She has told us her story. She has reminded us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, a golden thread that stretches back through the darkness of time, connecting every human heart that has ever beaten. Let your breathing become even slower now. With every exhale, release the last of your thoughts. In and out, you are a vessel of history. You carry the stardust of the cosmos and the DNA of the ancients. The strength of the Denisovans, the resilience of the Neanderthals, and the curiosity of the first humans. All of it is resting within you tonight. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to go anywhere. You have arrived. Imagine the flickering fire of that ancient cave slowly dying down to a warm, soft glow. The embers are pulsing like a heartbeat. One by one, the sparks drift upward and vanish into the night sky. And as they vanish, a profound silence settles over the earth. The world is asleep. The forests are still. The mountains are dreaming. You are drifting now, drifting away from the world of facts and figures and into the world of dreams, where the past and the present are one, where there are no more mysteries to solve, only the deep, restorative embrace of sleep. The Denisovans are watching over the east in the quiet of the stars. And you are here, protected by the legacy they left behind. Rest your mind. Rest your body. The story is told. The fire is out. The stars are bright. Good night, and sleep deeply.